master's program in conflict resolution. I will be your host for today. I'm Professor Katy Collin. I am the director of the program. I've been the director for coming up to 3 years, and I've been with the program and with Georgetown University since 2019, so about 5 years. My background is in peace and conflict studies. I have a BA in history and peace and conflict studies from the University of California at Berkeley. I have an MA degree in international policy studies from the Middlebury Institute of International Studies. And I have a PhD from American University's School of International Service. That degree is in international relations, where I focused on comparative politics and international peace and conflict resolution. I've also spent several years in the field in the civilian elements of peace operations in post-conflict environments, most often working with the United Nations, but also working with some big NGOs like IFAS and with other portions of the UN systems like the International Organization for Migration, the IOM. I've been all around the world doing that, mostly working with refugees and expatriate communities, and mostly working on electoral administration and advising. So in Europe, in Asia, in Sub-Saharan Africa, in the Middle East, and North Africa, and even in the United States. So I like to think of myself as a scholar practitioner, and I'm really excited to be able to be in a program that values 3 skills sets that I like to think that I've honed over the years. One in academic excellence, another in higher level policy and practice, and then the third that I do behind the scenes, which is to manage the program to the best of my abilities and with my management team. And you will often be interacting, I think, if you apply to the program, with our assistant director, Maricruz Luna. So let's get started. Enough about me. Let's talk about the program. Georgetown University is the oldest Catholic Jesuit university in the United States. It was founded before the District of Columbia in 1789. What's important to understand about Georgetown for potential applicants is that because we have a school with a social mission, those values are really emphasized by the university, and that makes this an excellent place to pursue degrees that include value-driven propositions. We, on this university, really lean into Jesuit values such as social justice, cura personalis, which means care of the entire person. We emphasize personal transformation for all of our students, including our master's students. And we try to lean into practices of personal reflection and discernment. All of that is going to have underpinnings that you're going to see echoes of across the campus and in the intellectual tradition in which we are rooted in this university. So what brings you to conflict resolution? Georgetown University is very well known for its political science, and we are in the heart of Georgetown's political science department. That's the Department of Government. We sit within the College of Arts and Sciences, and that is the oldest part of the university. It was the originally founded hub of intellectual life at Georgetown. We will often collaborate and share students in elective classes, share events. You will be closely connected to programs that do similar, but not quite the same things as the Department of Government or our MA program. So closely connected. Other schools at Georgetown would include places like the School of Foreign Service, which has a master's in foreign service, a master's in global human development, a master's in security studies, and others. We also collaborate often with the School of Public Policy. And as I highlighted earlier, I have a degree in policy and I have some practice in policy. So I'm resonate with this fairly well. The School of Public Policy includes master's programs in public policy, in international development policy, and in public policy management. So there are a collection of similar degrees, and we often collaborate with these other units, but we are distinct from them. There's many styles of MA programs. Most of the time, you're going to see MA programs with anywhere from 30 to 48 credits. And so you have some choice in focusing in on a degree in conflict resolution or in another closely related field. So by the way, 30 to 48 credits, that's generally what master's programs look like. Our program has a requirement of 34 credits to graduation. I'd also like to point out that our degree is interdisciplinary. So that means that while we often have students that are interested in political science and have a background in studying political science, that is not something that we necessarily want to see reflected in the entirety of our cohorts. We welcome students from other disciplinary backgrounds with regularity. We want to see students from other fields in social sciences, like sociology, like anthropology, like regionally specific foci. We also want to see students from humanities. We often have students with backgrounds in history. We have students that are interested in journalism. We even occasionally have students that are interested in divinity. So this is a diverse field, and the greater diversity of backgrounds that we have in the classroom, the better for our experience cohort to cohort. Inside the Department of Government, there are 3 MA programs. Each of these MA programs, each is small, it's intensive. They tend to be agile in that they can be really well tailored to your individual intellectual pursuit. And they are bespoke. Again, they can be well tailored for our individual students. Let's see. We are the department on campus that you would recognize from your undergraduate studies, likely, as being the closest thing to a traditional political science department that you're going to have. And that means that we have 3 levels of studies. We have undergraduates, we have master's programs, and we have PhD students. We are within the government department, we consider ourselves pursuers of the typical traditional subfields of political science in the United States. And that includes American government. So we have an MA in American government. It includes international relations and comparative government, which CR often, conflict resolution. We collaborate with those parts of the department most frequently. And we also have political theory. We consider ourselves, again, an interdisciplinary conflict resolution program. So that means that while we're nested within this department that is a political science department, we want to bring in people with backgrounds in peace and conflict studies, and you will recognize us as a peace and conflict studies program. We often bring in people who are interested in democracy studies. The department, larger, also pays attention to things like political economy, which you could pursue if that is of interest, and other niche fields. So again, our programs are bespoke. They're also relatively unique in their formats. It means that we as a program include a summer semester. It means that we, across the programs, include opportunities for skills training and for experiential learning programs. And it means that in addition to academically excellent courses that are focused on knowledge in your core field and that are often taught by cutting edge, world-class tenure track faculty from within the department. We also bring in top-notch, really high-level practitioners to teach you about their area of practice. So in this way, we really consider that we can bring our MA students the best of both worlds in this program that seeks to train you to be professionals in peace work moving forward. So our MA degree program, as I've said, we seek to train students to address conflicts at local, national, and global levels from a variety of perspectives. I like to tell people that I think it's more important now than ever before, and that is certainly only increasingly true. It's more important now to be looking at conflict resolution and peace and conflict studies as a field and training the next generation of practitioners in this field. As we've seen over the last 2 years, with some urgency, the number of conflicts in the world continues to rise. What's also true is that the violence of those conflicts has been on the rise. The complexity and the intractability of those conflicts has been on the rise. And our ability to respond to them, to resolve them, and to make those resolutions durable into the future to prevent future outbreaks of conflict, our toolkit for doing those things has been less and less effective. So on that global level, I really hope that I can contribute by training people to go out there and expand our toolkit for making peace, building peace, doing conflict prevention. You can also practice conflict resolution at the local level, right? At the interpersonal level, at the community-based level, at the state level. The states and societies right now need conflict resolution practitioners with that same kind of urgency. We've really seen the way that polarization has become a driver of really pernicious effect in our country, and not only in our country. This is a global phenomenon. So you can also find growing numbers of niches of practice for conflict resolution at that state society level in the United States and around the world. So in other words, we train students to address conflicts at each of these levels. We believe that the skills sets for doing that often communicate between these levels. We also believe that this is an area of professional practice in which we can train you in skills that can be applied within the United States and within the global context. We really seek to break down this barrier between looking at conflict processes and peace processes as something that takes place out there, external to the United States, and that what we do in the United States is different. I like to tell my students that the United States, we can consider it a post-conflict country, and that we have peace-building tasks that remain to be done in the United States. One of the founding mothers of conflict resolution, of peace studies as a field, talks about peace as a generational project, as a project of 200 years. And I like to think that you have to continue to seek to practice peace and be in the right place at the right time to make big impacts. You have to do that consistently and patiently over that multi-generational time horizon. And the United States is a really good example of how and why that is true. So in other words, we often have students that come to us and are interested in conflict processes and peace processes at that global level. That's true of me. That has been reflected in my own career and, as a practitioner. We also have students that come to us and they want to apply conflict resolution at their local level or within the United States. And this is also a home for students who want to look locally in practicing conflict resolution. We like to combine our traditional theory-based courses with skills and with experiential training. So what we try to do is give you knowledge, give you skills, and then give you opportunities to practice before we send you out into the world to be peace practitioners. In terms of our traditional theory-based courses, again, we pull from some of the best people best researchers, best academics in the country, in the world, that are looking at these things. So this includes our core faculty, such as Dash Girard, who is a former director of this program, preceded me in the program, brought me in. Dash has previously published on the use of foreign aid and its effectiveness in peace building projects. They have a new research agenda that is focused on the role of constructions of race in formulations of U.S. foreign policy. We also have Laia Balcells, who is a leading scholar on Civil War processes, and has been doing really interesting recent work on politics of memory and transitional justice. We have Lise Howard, who is the founding director of this program and is a world-class scholar, has literally written the book on United Nations peacekeeping operations, their efficacy, how and why they are effective at conflict prevention and securing peace agreements. We have Chantal Berman, who is the newest core member of our faculty and has been here for several years. She is a researcher of social movements. She does comparative work and specializes in the Middle East and North Africa. And of course, you have me. I am a scholar practitioner, and I will be your professor if you come to the program in the experiential portion of our curriculum. We also have these top-level practitioners who come in to teach their areas of practice. So we bring in people like Brett Bruin, who teaches crisis communications. And Brett was the director of global communications in the Obama White House and now runs the Global Situation Room, which is a communications firm. We have Frank Vogel, who was formerly a journalist, was with the World Bank, and was a co-founder of Transparency International, which is the largest and most well-established international NGO that looks at the role of corruption and fighting corruption in a comparative perspective around the world. We also have Teresita Schaefer, who Ambassador Schaefer leads our applied negotiation skills training. Ambassador Schaefer has served all around the world, was an ambassador twice, is a career diplomat, and now she teaches courses in diplomacy, and she teaches our applied negotiation course. You get 4 semesters of training in the classroom in knowledge, skills, and practice. So you have the classroom combined with practice in the field throughout your experience in the CR program. I like to think of our curriculum as a 3-legged stool. You could also call this 3 pillars to our curriculum. The first pillar is the theory, the academic knowledge. And in this pillar, we teach you conflict resolution theory, which is our gateway course. You come in as a cohort and take that together. So understanding conflicts and how we respond to conflicts. We also teach applied research methods for conflict resolution. So you'll learn how to research these topics. You get 5 3-credit seminar electives in addition to those academic core courses, 2 in conflict resolution, 2 general of your choice, and 1 that focuses on a regional or area studies specifically. The skills portion of our curriculum, the second pillar, includes, again, requirements and electives. The requirements are this backbone of what we consider to be the CR skills set, the conflict resolution skills set, these dialogue skills that are going to ground your conflict resolution practice, whether you are a diplomat at the global level, a mediator at the community level, a facilitator at the city level, or you're doing community relations at the government level, this is the foundational set of skills, regardless of your area of practice. And this includes applied negotiations, facilitation, and mediation. You can go on and take an elective in mediation in which we certify you, and that is in collaboration with San Francisco Community Boards, which is the oldest community-based mediation center in the country, and it is the place from which the intellectual family tree of mediation really began. So we can, if you are interested in earning a certification in mediation, you can do that through our program while you're studying for your MA. In addition to that backbone of skills-based courses, you need to take 3 skills electives. Those are taught as workshops. They are single credits. They are often based in specific kinds of skills, so things like crisis communications. We also do simulations. So for instance, this summer, we'll have a mass atrocity response simulation. So those are the format for those classes is unique. And Maricruz likes to point out that it is more like the format that you'll see moving forward. Once you are already a professional, you're going to continue your education through participating in this workshop style where you go in and you have something that is relatively intensive. So we usually deliver these over 2 to 3 days, and we have a time period set aside in the summer when you do your skills electives. So you have knowledge, you have skills, and then you have practice, where you apply the knowledge and the skills that you are learning. You come right into the program doing your experiential learning sequence. It's a sequence of 3 classes that runs through the fall, spring, summer semesters. So your first 3 semesters doing the MA, you are engaged in the experiential learning program. The practicum 1 and 2, these are our capstone courses. The practicum is a team-based, project-based series of courses. So in the fall, you come in, you form teams, you identify an area of common interest, you seek an external partner, and in the spring, with and for that external partner, your student team carries out and delivers a project to that partner. In the summer, you have an embedded experiential experience course. That is the summer field fellowship course. You go and you are embedded in an organization. You work with them full time, anywhere from 6 to 11 weeks. That can be out in the field anywhere in the world, as long as it is safe enough that the university gives you clearance to travel there. The summer fieldwork course is accompanied by, it is credit bearing, and it's accompanied by an online synchronous and asynchronous course that helps structure the learning that you're doing while you're in the field. So in the summer, you go out, you do your field fellowship. And actually, when I say that you go out, what we really want to do is blow on the dandelion and send our students everywhere in the world that they're interested in going. That includes if you are interested in practicing in your hometown in the United States. We've had summer field fellows who have been in Washington, D.C. really consistently. We've had them in other places in the United States, and we've had them in their home countries or cities if they are from other places. So we really want you to use the summer field fellowship to the best, so that it sets you up the best for where you want to take your degree following graduation. And so if that's internationally, that's wonderful. And if it's not, that's also very, very welcome, also wonderful. So you go out, you do your 6 to 11 weeks of placement, and then you come back and you do 2 weeks of your intensive skills electives training. The way that looks is that we have 4 semesters. And you come in, you do a fall semester, your spring semester, your summer semester, and then your second fall semester where you complete your elective requirements and you graduate in December. So if you are applying for the 2024 cohort, would begin your studies in August of 2024, and you would graduate in December of 2025. So we like to describe this as a relatively breathless and intensive program. You can complete it relatively quickly, and you also need to be ready, though, to be studying at a relatively intense pace for the entirety of the pursuit of your degree. So again, we require 34 credits in order to graduate, and those 34 credits are distributed over 4 semesters. Those 4 semesters include your summer, and you complete your degree if you're following the normative full-time progression in about 16 months. While you're here, if you are interested, you can pursue optional certificates that are offered by other units in the university. So remember that I said that this was a bespoke, really customizable program. With all of your electives, you can go out and really dig deeply into what interests you in the conflict resolution field. And if that overlaps with these certificate programs, then this is a really excellent way to have a guided experience in putting together your program at Georgetown. These certificates, again, they are optional. So if they serve you well, please go ahead and imagine that you will pursue one. And if they don't serve you well, then please do not imagine that you need them. You absolutely don't. You can pursue your MA without adding a certificate in. The certificates usually, I like to think of them as being either regional. So we have certificates in Asian studies, Arab studies, Latin American studies, African studies. And we also have a collection of certificates that are topical. So there's a certificate in refugees and humanitarian emergencies. There's a certificate in global human development. There's a certificate in diplomatic studies. There's a certificate with which we collaborate relatively closely on gender, peace, and security. So there's a wide variety of these. We include them in this presentation to give you an idea of the kinds of specialties that our students may be pursuing while they study for their master's. I want to talk to you a little bit more about the experiential learning portion of our degree, in part because this is the part of the three-legged stool that I am responsible for. It is also the thing where the part of your studies where you apply the knowledge and skills that you're earning. It sets you up really well. It's training for you to go out and try and find your first job in the field subsequent to your master's degree. So we try to train you in the process of doing the networking and finding your place in the field while you're in the MA program so that you can rerun that process with good effect when you graduate, when you're on the job market. So again, the practicum is project-based and it's team-based. This gives you an idea of some of the practicum projects that we've done in the past or the partners that we've worked with. So for instance, in the spring of 2021, we had a practicum team that was really interested in working at this nexus of conflict and climate change. And they did a project with the International Water Management Institute that looked at examples of adaptation and maladaptation specifically. So responses to climate change that actually ended up hurting local communities. They were taking a gendered lens at maladaptation, and one of our students turned that into a fellowship research opportunity during the next year. So really deepened her knowledge in that area, and she went on to do another intensive research project in that area. That same year, we had another team that partnered with the Middle East Institute to put on a workshop that centered on the Abraham Accords. So they spent their semester researching the Abraham Accords, networking among experts, and at the end of the semester, they put on a workshop in which they had a collection of experts that came and really delved into the way that the Abraham Accords were impacting Israel's relationship with its neighbors, with the United States, and how the Abraham Accords might impact peace with Israel-Palestine. That was a really successful workshop. It was one of the best attended that the Middle East Institute had been involved in. We were very proud of that student team and their work. I like to tell my students that these programs, that the projects that you do, you should really feel unfettered. Go out and do something that is of service to your partner, but also can be really creative. We can have art projects, we can have podcasts, we could have policy workshops, we can have research papers that target really niche policy areas. So there's really, you should think of this as an opportunity to do something creative, an opportunity to really dig deeply into a part of the world of policy and practice, and to get to know the practitioners in your area of interest. So the Summer Field Fellowship serves really similar purposes. This is an opportunity for you to get to know an organization really, really well, to be deeply embedded in it. We often send students out, especially now post-pandemic. We're really happy about that. We send students out all over the world. So for instance, we've sent students out really consistently to work with refugees in Greece. So we've had students do that over several years. This summer, we had a student who worked at the War Child Museum in Sarajevo. We had another student who worked on refugee issues and in refugee camps in Kenya with a small NGO called Peace Winds Japan. Last summer, we had a student who was in Amman, Jordan, working with the Office of the Special Envoy, Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary General, that was the Special Envoy to Yemen. So they are trying to do the dialogue processes of peacemaking on Yemen. So our student had the opportunity to go there and work with that UN office on that peace process. We also have students really consistently working at the United States Institute for Peace over the summer. So again, that's an example of students who stay in Washington, D.C. and work in the U.S. context. So last summer, I think we had 3 students placed at the United States Institute for Peace. They are a wonderful partner, relatively often with us. And I just want you to note that you're welcome to do these experiential programs in Washington, D.C. or outside of it. That goes for both the practicum and the summer field fellowship. We often have the question of what our alumni do when they graduate. And I like to say, and I'm updating this with some feedback, recent feedback. This is a listing of places where recent graduates have are working, where recent graduates are working. Usually that's in 4 or 5 sectors. So we have students that go and work in the governmental sector. So we have graduates that work with the Department of Justice, in particular in their Community Relations Service, which is a conflict resolution office that the DOJ maintains. But we also have alumni who go to USAID, who go to the State Department, who go to other areas of the government. Also, we have other levels of government at which alumni end up working. So for instance, we have an alumni who, until very recently, did violence prevention on gender-based violence for the state of Tennessee. We've had students that work for local governments. So we have an alumnus who works with, I believe, with the city of New Orleans. So government, when I say the government sector, that's multiple levels. We also have students that work in the non-governmental sector. So this includes big non-governmental organizations and even international organizations. That often looks like organizations that are working in what is called the triple nexus. So humanitarian organizations like Mercy Corps, like CARE. It means peace building operations like Search for Common Ground or the Alliance for Peace Building. And it means international development organizations. So places like Chemonics or PACT, or even the World Bank, to mix the international organizations and the NGOs. I would add sectorally that we also have students that go on to work for big democracy actors like IFES, like the International Republican Institute, and like the National Democratic Institute. We also have students that go out and work with think tanks. So we have grads at USIP, which is a quasi-governmental think and do tank. We have recent grads at the Brookings Institution. Yeah, so those are the sectors where students go when they are working in those non-governmental organizations. We also have a surprising number of students who go on to work in the private sector. So we have students at Ernst & Young, at Google, at Facebook, I believe. We had a student that was at Apple, but I think that they have left recently. We have students who work for Internews, for Thomson Reuters. And so sometimes they do really mainstream things that the institution is doing, like journalism. And other times they do conflict resolution work that private sector institution is engaged in. So the private sector is a growing area of hiring of our graduates. And then finally, we have graduates that go on to work in or pursue higher education beyond their MA degree. So we've had students that go on to work in higher ed. So for instance, we have recent graduates who work in diversity, equity, and inclusion offices in higher education. We have students that go on to other studies like law school, like journalism school. We have a recent grad that just started a journalism program, and law school. So we have other students that have gone on. Sorry, I just listed law school twice. We have students that go on to work in law school. Alternative dispute resolution is a niche corner of conflict resolution as a field, and often a law degree is really useful in getting into that part, and or the conflict resolution degree informs legal practice in a variety of settings. So we have a smattering of alums that go on to study law in other settings. And then we have alumni that go on to work in higher education. So this fall we had a alumna who came and gave a talk. She's a tenure track professor, and she studies, she's a critical studies Africana studies professor. We have another professor who came to do a book talk with us a couple years ago. She's a graduate from one of our first cohorts, and she works at the University of Edinburgh on their peace agreement database. So yeah, there are really a pretty wide variety of places that you can go and put this degree into practice as a peace professional. And usually I think about it in those four categories. So government, non-governmental, private practice, and higher education. We take very seriously the task of preparing you to be on the job market. Careers in this field are often they involve a lot of moves. You're going to work contract to contract. You're going to make a lot of changes. We try to train you up to have skills in the profession and also skills on the job market in this profession, because that's going to advance you throughout your career. In other words, we really value mentoring in this program. We do a lot of community building. We do a lot of mentorship, and we try to do what Georgetown would call contemplation in action. So we have a series of events, generally small, but also rather large scale. So yesterday we held an event where we brought high-level practitioners working on Russia and Ukraine to talk about the status of the war and American policy toward Ukraine and toward Russia. So we got to have a high-level discussion on that yesterday afternoon. We have done similar discussions this year on Israel-Palestine and on the war in Sudan. Last year, we had a panel on gun violence in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. We bring alumni back to do career talks. Yeah, so we consistently try to supplement our curriculum by giving our students an opportunity to interact with high-level practitioners, as well as practitioners who are more recent grads to kind of get a view of the job market. We try to hold once a year a more high-level event. This photograph is from last year's talk with the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists and the elders on the occasion of the setting of the Doomsday Clock. So this is former President of Colombia and Nobel laureate Juan Manuel Santos, former President of Ireland, and the former High Commissioner for Human Rights at the United Nations, Mary Robinson, the first prime minister post transition of Mongolia, Elbegdorj Tixia, and the executive director of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, Rachel Bronson. So we got to have a discussion last year about the impact of climate change, the war in Russia, Ukraine, and the growing threat of the use of nuclear weapons on the occasion of the setting of the Doomsday Clock. And this is one of our students who got to ask Mary Robinson a question, and it was really a wonderful moment for all of us in the room. As I've said, we also really try to train you to be comfortable interacting in rooms with all of these practitioners, whether they are, mid-career or very high-level practitioners. We try to give you skills to imagine your career post graduation and to get you started as smoothly as possible. We try to plug you into the excellent career services that Georgetown has to offer. There are two that our students have access to. One is the School of Foreign Service Graduate Career Center, and the other is the Graduate Career Center at the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, of which we are a subunit. We also, I should add, really seek to build community for its own sake. We often have shared meals. We often have opportunities to talk about resilience. We are holding this semester a pair of community building circles, which is a CR practice that our assistant director recently has been trained in and is useful for doing community repair as well as community building. It's a specific skill set. So again, we scale these community building and practitioner interactions. Really, we scale it down to be just amongst us, but we also scale it up to be, serving the entirety of the intellectual community at the university. And we're really privileged at Georgetown to have some convening power that lets us do that at a high level. We think that brings a great amount of value to our students. I want to add, just going back to this first point on mentorship, that the assistant director and I, Mara Cruz Luna and I, really spend a lot of time with students one-on-one. We want to know you when you come in as a person. We want to be a partner with you on your intellectual journey, and we want to facilitate your journey on, figuring out and navigating the job market. So mentorship is something that we put a premium on. If you're interested in applying, you should know that our application date is January 15th for the incoming cohort, for the cohort of 2024. There's a variety of application materials listed here. This is what an application will be comprised of. In general, we like to tell people that we look for two things in every application, and we read every application holistically, which means we consider all of your materials. We don't have any numerical cutoffs. We really want to get a sense of you as a person as a whole. I look for two characteristics in every application. One, I look for a demonstration that you have the ability to succeed academically in the program. Pursuing a graduate degree at Georgetown is a hefty intellectual undertaking, and we want you to come in and be successful. So I want to see that you've got the chops as a student. So show me that you have the ability to succeed. The other thing that I want to see is that you fit with the program. I want to know why you're interested in Georgetown. I want to know why you're interested in conflict resolution as a field. And I want to know why you're interested in our conflict resolution master's program. So show me where you're interested in peace and conflict studies, in conflict resolution, in social justice. Where does that come from? So do you have evidence for that in what you did as an undergraduate student, either in your work, in your volunteering, in your activism, in what you studied? Do you have work, volunteerism, or activism that shows that outside of the context of your undergraduate studies? Yeah, so figure out how to help us understand, show us that you understand our program, and then explain how you are a good fit for the program. And remember that we are looking for a variety, a diversity of students. So students that are just out from their undergrad, or students that have been out working and are looking to make a mid-career switch, anything in between, we are interested in you. Students that have studied international relations, comparative politics, political science, fantastic. Students that have studied peace and justice studies, peace and conflict studies, social justice of any kind, that is also a field that feeds into our view on conflict resolution. Students in other areas of the humanities, other social sciences, if you have an interesting fit, explain it to us. We are really happy to bring in students who are going to apply conflict resolution to their pursuit of music, to their pursuit of economics, to their pursuit of social work. We really are a degree that can help serve you in a variety of ways. So even if you think that you are a non-traditional applicant, expressing the way that you fit with the program is the way to navigate that. So again, we look for in our holistic read of your application, a demonstration that you have the ability to succeed and a demonstration of your fit. We want everyone to come in understanding the costs. There are two ways to understand the costs of this program. One is the cost of time. This is an opportunity cost. It's precious time of your life. It's also really foundational and formational. And I want you to, think not only about the cost in terms of your savings and your money, but also in terms of your time. This is a serious investment of time and energy. In terms of money, you need to understand that MA programs at Georgetown there is a per unit cost, and that changes slightly from year to year. So in order to calculate the cost of the degree, please go on to the website for the graduate school and find the cost per credit unit, and then you can calculate the cost of your degree. Know that we are a little program, and that means that we have a scholarship fund for merit. We consider every applicant for that scholarship pool. Because we're a little program, that's a little pool. There's a little variation every year. But in general, we want you to come in expecting to source the funding for your degree, mostly not through merit scholarships that we offer. Although we do our best for students, we will seek to offer you what we can. All right. At this point, we have a few minutes where we can take questions or comments. I don't see any that are waiting in the chat. I'm going to stop my share. This will stay on YouTube, so this is intended to be an evergreen resource. If you want to reach us for questions, my assistant director and I are available to you at any time. I'm going to come back to my share and tell you that we have a general email that you can write to us at. at which you can write to us, says my mother in my mind. And that is conflictresolution@georgetown.edu. You can reach us by phone. We also have Zoom-based information sessions where you can come and ask us questions in person. And I'm sure that you've all received the links to that. You can also find it on our website. Yeah, so there are multiple means through which you can contact us to ask us questions into the future. Our contact information is also evergreen on our website. All right, so since we don't have any new questions, I'm going to close this out. Enjoy your lunch. We're recording this just before Thanksgiving, so enjoy your holiday. Think about all the things you're grateful for. I am really grateful for our wonderful students, and I hope that they are having a restful break, and I wish that for all of you as well this week. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.